This is Podco Media Networks.
Hi, everybody. This is Elle Wolf, host of the Further podcast, and I hope you enjoy part one of my discussion with the illustrious Doug Kessler, co-founder and creative director of Velocity Partners. We're going to dig into why B2B marketing is sometimes a little bit boring and what you can do to make it less so. All right, so I feel incredibly honored to be joined today by Doug Kessler, who is the creative director and co-founder of Velocity Partners. Hi, Doug. How you doing?
Hey.
So, full disclosure, I've worked with Doug before on several projects, actually. So I'm maybe a little biased about just how sort of brilliant he is. I think I've described you to other people, and I'm going to make you blush, as like the Don Draper of B2B, without all the smoking and alcoholism.
And abuse of colleagues. Okay, I'll take it.
Just the good stuff, just the brilliant.
The B2B Draper, wow.
That's pretty good, right?
I'll take it.
I mean, he wears a sharp suit. He says smart things. Like, what's better than that? So, we're going to talk a little bit about Velocity Partners and the kind of work you do. I always like to start these conversations because I think everyone is like slightly voyeuristic and they want to know where people came from. So I think you've been on the agency side for all of your career. Is that right?
Yeah, FML or what?
Don Draper, like I said.
Yeah.
Did like little Doug Kessler grow up knowing like this was what you wanted to do with your life? Like what was your path to getting where you are now?
Bizarrely and embarrassingly, probably yes. Like I obviously as a little kid, it was all baseball and stuff like that. But I was really interested in advertising. In junior high, I did a paper on the use of water imagery in menthol cigarette ads. And I found like 30 examples to prove my point. And I'm still bitter about the feedback. The teacher said too many examples. What? Like, the whole point was the examples. Like it wasn't just 2 or 3. And so, weirdly, I was always into it. My dad was a copywriter. So he wasn't particularly happy one. He didn't like, it's not like he taught me it or anything, but clearly it's in the blood.
That's amazing. That's so little. So I always ask this question and no one's like, yes, when I was a child, I wanted to be a marketer, but you actually did. So you're like an advertising nerd is what we'll just call it. So you started the agency that you work at now, Velocity Partners. You guys are based in the UK, headquartered in the UK?
Yes, London. And we got about 60 people here, but we have 5 in New York and we have high hopes. And so there's a foothold there too.
Excellent. And can you talk a little bit just about what you guys do there? Like what kind of projects do you do? What kind of projects do excite you? I think I know kind of the answer to this, but I want to know like what gets you guys out of bed in the morning?
Yeah, good questions. I mean, we're all B2B, we're all tech. We focus on what we think are the 4 hardest things to do in B2B. So it's positioning, branding, that's one. Content marketing, the strategy, the content programs, digital build. So that's websites or cool interactive stuff or the back end plumbing. And then performance marketing. That's, show me the money stuff, the analytics and everything. So those 4, which we feel are not just the hardest, but the 4 that really belong together, where each of them is done best when it's integrated with the other 3. And so rather than go full service, we kind of cherry pick the things that are hardest, the things that absolutely belong together, and the things we love. And of course, those are just services. So in the middle of that is what we call the galvanizing story. So it's this kind of narrative that holds it all together, clear, compelling narrative that just unites all of those things into one big story. And so that's kind of what we do, the stuff that excites us. We are B2B tech marketing geeks, so not people you want to invite to a dinner party or anything like that.
I mean, it depends on who's throwing the dinner party.
Most dinner parties, when I mention B2B, people scoot a few seats down. But, we love...
God, such a bad rap in B2B. My God. It's cool,
I know.
People,
well,
I swear,
now it's
cool.
changing. But anyway, I look, tough, interesting, non-obvious challenges, that can be nimble startups, or it can be the big old kind of incumbents fighting off all those fucking nimble startups that are plaguing them. So either side of that battle is always really fun. And, times have changed. When things are changing, markets are changing, new models, new whatever, those are really fun. But make hard is good. Like sometimes we'll meet a company and think that story is so good, we just have to stand back and let it tell itself. And those are actually less fun, even though they're wonderful companies. We want the hard stuff. It's like, wow,
Right. Like how, like finding where the challenge is in like trying to articulate
or
the galvanizing
differentiate,
story.
or like sometimes if your best story is also the identical one of 10 other players or something, but it is your best story. So like that's that horrible thing. Do we abandon this great story just to differentiate, or what do we do? So, just hard stuff like that is
Well, and you and I have gone through this together, like trying to, so we worked together on a really big project, which was the rebranding of Path Factory from Lookbook HQ. Rest in peace, Lookbook HQ. And I mean, I've gone through this in every stage of my career where I'm constantly thinking like, should we back off, this language or this wording or whatever, because other people are picking it up, or is like that the time to like embrace it and hold on to it for dear life? And those are hard.
Yeah,
those are hard things.
Those are the things that excite us. It's like these are tough, they're tricky, and I guess, the one like you're saying is like, well, when do you know you got it right? It's really hard. You just kind of follow your gut, I guess.
Yeah, no, totally. There's a lot of art.
And then the data tells you if you got it right.
That's right. So I've, throughout my career in marketing, I've worked with a lot of different agencies on lots of different types of projects. And I think that, one thing that like makes it work when you have a great relationship with an agency and you get great work from them, it has something to do with like how well that agency can kind of immerse themselves in your business. I mean, the reality is like, it's hard to come in and not be sitting in that business, although I'm sure you have fresh eyes. But I found that kind of the common denominator in sort of the meh work and the great work is like, can the agency really develop empathy and really understand sort of deftly like what the business is all about? So can you talk a little bit about your process in doing that? Because you guys are I would say like, if you had a superpower, this is it. I remember the first time we met and we had this conversation, and like it was like you just looked right in my soul and knew all my secrets. And I was like, how did he do that? And we had barely talked. And I think you have this capacity to just like get it. How do you do that?
Well, I mean, some of it is about like being in it a long time. When you specialize in something like tech and B2B, you see a whole lot of patterns. And so you start spotting them early. And the danger is you spot them when they're not really there, But so there's that. But I think, what you hit on about empathy is absolutely the thing and the hardest thing. And it's true client side as well. You're a natural marketer. You've always been this way. Just the fact that you articulate that challenge makes you that kind of marketer, when there are a whole bunch who they don't think of that as their biggest challenge, but it is, And so I don't know. I mean, we found no shortcuts, and if we had, we would have taken them because we are lazy bastards. But there just isn't spending time with the target audience. So listening really hard about how they think about their world, how they talk about it. You could pull a persona document out of your ass, but the result is definitely going to betray that you did that. So for us, talking with our clients' customers is really, really key. And we work hard, fight hard to try to make that happen. And some of the absolute best insights come from that direct content. We had a procurement software client, and we talked to procurement people, and they said, everyone in the company hates us. And a few people said that. It's like, wow, that was our insight. We went to town on that. It's like, that's real. Like, imagine being in a company. You're really good at what you do. You're helping the company and everyone hates you. We never would have got that from our client, even though they were super smart. So just the direct contact with people, absolutely no substitute.
Well, that's like, I mean, you just basically described the difference between shitty marketing and great marketing, which is just like, it has to be about that audience. It has to be about the buyer. And I think, sometimes we think we're doing that, and we're really, like you said, we have a persona or whatever, and we're like, we get it. And I can attest to this because I've been doing quite a bit of consulting in my downtime these past few months. And it's really hard to jump into somebody else's business and like get it quickly, because again, like I'm not a DevOps, person, or like so it's like it's really hard to develop that kind of empathy for the buyer without really trying to put their clothes on for a minute.
And that's a B2B thing more than, consumer, even if you're not the audience, you're not that far from the audience. We all drink beer, we all wear watches, we all clean floors, so we are the audience. And B2B, it's rare. Like, you were marketing to marketers at Path Factory, so at least that's great. When you're marketing to your own people, you're living their life. That to me is a really big advantage and a rare one. But when you don't, like you say, DevOps, man, you got to spend time with them because, if you don't do that, it will be faking it. And it's weird what authenticity is. Like, I don't know why something is or isn't, but you just know that it is or isn't. It's some clarity.
But it's like what you said. That like tapping into that one critical insight, that one little thing that like, oh, these people are walking around knowing that everyone hates them. Like I've thought about this like every once in a while when I tap into one of those veins, I'm like, and I realize something, I'm like, oh, you could have some fun with this. Like let's do something cool with this.
Right. These little crystals of insight. And those things come from the customer. They come from the end customer all the time.
So you mentioned B2C, so I'm going to take it there for a second. I think B2B we all are sort of navel gazing and like showering adoration on B2C. It's like the cool older sibling that got its shit together. But I know you consume a ton of marketing. I see you write about it and talk about it all the time. Do you really think they're all that different? I mean, you just highlighted one key difference, which is that we're all consumers, and so we can, have that kind of empathy. But like what? Why does everyone think B2C is so cool and B2B is so lame?
Yeah, it's luckily it's changing. So for most of my career, it was as simple as that, and but less and less. But for most of my career, it was almost embarrassing to say the B2B part. It wasn't glamorous. There wasn't going to be a Kardashian in any of our work. No big TV shoots on beaches with models or anything like that. And I do have to admit, the best consumer marketers have always been better at understanding people and emotion and non-rational reasons to do things. Whereas B2B, too many people still feel it's like we're marketing to decision-making units, bots who make decisions. That part,
right,
we have had to, and are still learning from. But it's changing fast. So emergence of behavioral economics and things like that means even B2B folks realize we make decisions with our gut and then we rationalize it with our head. And so we'd better have ways to talk to the gut. And, so in that sense, no, it's not different. There are the differences of long buying cycle, many people in the buying decision. Those things are unique challenges. But like what moves a human being, content to person or person to person, that stuff is no different.
No, so it's psychology. And I think I see it turning to, I think we're having this sort of zeitgeist moment that's where brand is becoming a little bit more in focus for B2B companies, where I think in the past, a lot of them have phoned it in. I think it's, in B2B, you're always in this sort of business of like manufacturing demand, and maybe people don't feel like they have time to think about the brand or whatever it is. But I think there's lots of great examples in B2B today that demonstrate that brand is like the key differentiator, and you have to focus there. And I do.
I love that change, and I'm really glad you picked it too, because that you're seeing it validates for me, A, that it's happening, and B, that it's important. And I really do think it's been phoned in for too long, and now it's coming around and people are realizing this is important. And luckily it's also really fun, that helps.
Oh, absolutely. For me, it's like, it's the golden age of marketing. It's a great time to be a marketer right now, because I've always valued that stuff and cared about that stuff. And it's weird. I am very left brain, sort of nerdy in that way. I like to know how things work, but like, I think of myself as a traditional marketer. And so like, I feel like I always wanted to apply these kind of B2C things and no one wanted to let me. And I love that it's becoming cool to do that. Right.
Yeah, it's totally changed. And now I feel like, I'm not just being super defensive. I actually I would feel more embarrassed to be peddling watches and beer and perfume right now. A watch, you put it on Pierce Brosnan and he goes like this, and that's a watch ad. Pierce wears it, so I'm supposed to wear it. I'd be embarrassed to do, and I know it works. It's not like I wouldn't do it if I were selling watches, but I'm glad I'm not.
Yeah, you're right. In some ways, that's a very good point. My husband worked in a a big consumer brand for a long time, and I was always like, cheaters. Like it was just like, duh, so obvious. You like get a celebrity, you like sponsor a big cool music festival. It was just like all these easy things, and I'm like, I'm over here trying to figure out what makes this person tick and like piece together all this orchestrated crap, and you guys are just spending money, blowing money on
the meeting. It's like, I know. Pierce Brosnan. It's like, for fuck's sake, that's just not a grown-up job. And I have done it.
I would be good at that.
The funny thing is, I started in it, and there is fun to be had there for sure. But it's not really a grown-up thing.
No, I get it. And that's why you said at the top, you really like the hard stuff. And I think in some ways, like, B2B is really hard. It's like a hard place to make things cool and interesting and fun. And I do think that's the major mistake of many B2B brands is that it's exactly what you said. They treat the buyer like they're not a human and therefore they don't engage them on these human terms where like there is that little thread you can always pull on. There is always that person who is hated within their organization and you can somehow make light of it or turn it into an interesting moment or whatever. And without seeking that out, then everything's boring and it's 4 shades of blue and gray and whatever.
Well, that's true. And part of that is like, it's not just finding it in the other in the audience, but in oneself. Like the geekiness really helps here because you got to find it in yourself. You got to find something you care about and the people in the company care about and like that really care about. And so for procurement people, like when you dig down, they hate waste. Like they hate waste. They just hate it. And that's cool, actually, when you think, all right, let's hate on waste because waste is, in a world of scarcity, waste is criminal, So and it's finding that, and it's like, again, you've always been good at this. You've always been like, wait, I'm in this seat. I'm going to be all in on this, not phoning it in. And that, I think it starts with yourself. Yeah. Like, can you get into this? Can you believe it and love it and go for it? And the rest kind of comes into place if you can.
I think that's in part why I've stayed in MarTech for so long. I mean, Path Factory was my third. I was at Eloqua, I was at Lattice Engines, also to the same exact buyer. And I mean, like, it's very easy for me to have empathy for a marketer because I am a marketer and I don't have to work as hard to know, what's going to, make them feel a certain way. And I definitely, as I thought about what I wanted to do in my next role, that was a key part of it. Like, I don't have to be this person, but can I care about this person? Can I get excited about what gets them excited? Because that is what's going to make me good at that job, right? That's
and I think just it doesn't take too much. I mean, these are people struggling with similar things. There haven't been that many categories where I thought, wow, I'm really struggling with it. Yeah, I can't. Yeah. I used to think insurance, like, please, not insurance. And then we got a client who touched on that. And you start realizing, wow, risk is actually a really interesting thing. Insurance may not be, but risk is. And the idea of spreading it out and, that kind of thing. So it's rare to find one that really is a major yawn.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to think. I get what you're saying, because you're right. Like, to that person, it's not boring. Right. It's their life. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Talking to Doug is one of my favorite things to do. And so I hope you will join me in part 2 of our discussion coming up next time, where we're going to talk about how to be a good stakeholder during creative projects and the words that Doug would banish from the English language if he were able to do so.